Da 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 da. Hello, everyone. My name's Stonesy Boy, and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. I sound clear now. Last episode, I sounded like crud because I was trying to record while in college, and for some unbeknownst reason, my microphone on my other laptop just refuses to work. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to do the re-recording because I've already done the recording, and well, I do come home from college every 2 weeks, so I thought maybe I could just shoot out a couple million book reading videos, and then every week come back to it. Because honestly, I'm a few weeks ahead. I mean, the day you're gonna get this is October 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. Someone go into the lower the video and fact check me real quick because I believe it's the 23rd of October. Um, maybe not. Uh, and just in case the next episode was not as laggy and because I redid the video, don't mind anything I just said because that's really confusing. What's also really confusing is why I'm still talking in a reading video. Because today we are going to be reading pages 151 to 165. That's only 14 pages, but give a guy a break. He just came back from basically a month of not reading and not doing audiobooks, so just give me a break, alright? So, without further ado, with my new break in tow, let's begin. Josh laughed. So that's what you'll be doing when you get home tonight? Putting your brain back in your head? Nah, I'll probably wait till the morning. No need to start thinking any sooner than I have to. Josh and Kyle were both laughing, but Chris can muster a smile. How could he even end up being friends with these losers? He supposed it was because Josh lived next door and Kyle lived across the street. They had been flung together because they were the same age and lived in the same place. If Chris had grown up in a nicer neighborhood, he would have ended up in a better class of friends. After they finished their ice cream, they got back on their bikes and to go to the lake. What they called the lake was really just a large pond. Once they got there, they did the usual. They looked for flat stones, skip across the water. They tried to approach the Canada geese, then laugh when the geese hissed at them. They talked about video games and internet memes and nothing in particular. Looking at the lake was really a pond. Chris thought of the word stagnant. The pond was nowhere near. It wasn't even a river or just a little stream that flowed when somewhere else. Become a part of something bigger. Instead, it just sat there, growing algae and gross bacteria, going nowhere and becoming nothing. Unlike the pond, unlike Josh and Kyle, Chris had no intention of stagnating. He was going places. Chris woke up early the first day of school. He took a shower, brushed his teeth aggressively, and applied a double coat of deodorant. He ran a little gel through his short, neatly cut, sandy brown hair to make sure it wasn't going anyplace. He put on the polo shirt and khakis that he set out for the night before. He wished again that they were a better brand, but at least they were clean and new. Hey there, my big freshman, Mom said when he came into the kitchen. She assaulted him with a hug. Mom, stop, Chris said, squirming away from her, sitting at the table. He poured himself a bowl of cornflakes and started slicing a banana over them. Mom sat down across from him, holding a cup of coffee. She had already done her hair and makeup for work. As always, it was a little too much in Chris's opinion. Her hair was dyed a shade of red and wasn't found in nature, and she was wearing a leopard print top and black leggings and leopard print shoes. She wished you would aspire to simple elegance instead of cheap glamour. I know get tired of me talking about how big you've gotten, she said, but when you're parents someday, you'll understand. You'll start out with a little tiny baby with toes the size of corn kernels, and then it seems like no time passes till your baby's tall and you have to look up at him. Chris didn't comment. He crunched the cornflakes. What was there to say? He had grown. It's what kids did. It wasn't like it was some great achievement or anything. Anyway, I'm proud of you, his mom said. Proud of your sister, too. It really seems like she would be a baby, but you should have seen her this morning. She got herself all ready and walked to the bus stop. So independent. She smiled. There's a little smear of lipstick in her front tooth. Say, I don't have to be at work till 9 in the morning. Do you want me to drive you on your first day? Chris nearly choked on his cornflakes. He didn't want a science club kids at his new school to see his overly made-up mom pull in a 10-year-old economy car that rattled and wheezed like somebody's great-grandpa. What kind of impression would that make? No thanks, Mom. I'll just take the bus. What did I say? Independent. His mom reached over the ruffled hair. Now he would have to comb it again. On the school bus, Josh and Kyle were sitting next to each other. When Chris boarded, Josh said, Hey, Chris, time to turn ourselves back into the jailer, huh? Chris ignored him. It was an empty seat across from the aisle of Josh and Kyle, and he ignored that too, and found another empty seat farther back in the bus. It was better to be seen alone than to be seen with the wrong company. He looked around the bus, trying to figure out if any kids looked like being the science club members. West Valley High was much bigger and more crowded than Chris's old middle school. In the hallways, he had to concentrate and keep himself from running anyone over, and not to run over himself. It was hard to concentrate on navigating the hallway when his brain was consumed on one thought. Third period is Mr. Little's class. Third period is Mr. Little's class. After what felt like an eternity and a half, third period arrived, and Mrs. Chris and his classmates crowded into the room. At the end of the hall, and beheld bizarre wonders of Mr. Little's classroom. Chris took a seat and looked around. The walls were plastered with posters, some outlining and scientific method and showing cell structures, others displaying science-related puns and wordplay. One said, "In science, matter matters," and another said, "Think like a proton, stay positive." The shelves that line the room are filled with more scientific curiosities, and Chris would take it at once. The one nearest to him displayed a variety of glass jars filled with clear fluid and different biological specimens. One jar held some poor creature's heart. Another housed a fetal piglet with two perfectly formed heads. Yet another contained what disturbingly looked like a human brain. Mr. Little stood before the lab table and headed to the classroom. He wore the white lab coat over the collared shirt and brightly colored necktie printed in the design of a DNA helix. He was a small, energetic man, the literal incarnation of his last name, and he was smiling like the master of ceremonies in a particularly exciting show. His safety goggles, worn over his regular glasses, made his eyes look huge and insectoid. "Come on in, find a seat, don't be shy," he said as the students filtered in his classroom. "I promise there will be no major explosions or dismemberments, at least not on the first day." He flashed a naughty grin. Chris didn't know everything he would be learning in this class, but he already knew one thing. He had never met a teacher like Mr. Little. "All right, let's go ahead and get started," Mr. Little said, even though tittering among the students didn't die down. Chris expected Mr. Little to raise his voice, take out his roll book, or start taking attendance, but instead he poured some kind of clear solution into a glass container held over the Bunsen burner. Within seconds, a huge fireball appeared, the flames falling just short of licking the ceiling, then disappeared instantaneously. Everybody in the classroom gasped. I thought you would be getting your attention," Mr. Little said, grinning, "but I promise, you ain't seen nothing yet." He looked around the room. "This is science, and it's not for the faint of heart or the cowardly. It's not about just reading a textbook and answering questions correctly. It's about innovative thinking, and it's about getting your hands dirty. It's about experimenting with all the word experiment implies. Sometimes we succeed, and sometimes we fail, but either way, we learn. In this class, I may ask you to do some stuff that sounds kind of crazy, but I promise if you bear with me and follow my advice, by the time you're done with this course, you'll be thinking, talking, walking, and quacking like a scientist." He looked around the room. "Now, who's ready to learn some cool stuff?" Everybody clapped, hooted, and cheered. Chris already felt like he was a member of an exclusive club. "Now, before we get to the fun stuff, we have to jump through a few bureaucratic hoops," Mr. Little said. "That first being the lab's safety contract, which you and your parents must read and sign, saying that you will not intentionally blow up the school or another classmate." "Oh, where's the fun in that?" a kid in the front row asked, and everybody laughed. "Oh, it's always good fun until you have to scrub somebody's viscera off the walls," Mr. Little said. "I do hate it when students leave a mess." More laughter. The boy sitting in front of Chris raised a hand and asked, "Are you going to talk about the lock-in?" "Yes," Mr. Little said. "There will be a meeting in this room right after school today, and for everybody who's interested in coming in a lock-in this weekend, I strongly suggest that you come for both the sake of your grades," he mouthed the words extra credit, "and for the sake of science." Once class was dismissed, the boy in front of Chris turned around. "I haven't seen you around here before. Are you a freshman?" His brown eyes were intense and intelligent. "Yes," he said. "How about you?" "Sophomore," the boy said. "Sanjay Patel. Everybody calls me San." Chris Watson. San radiated not only intelligence but confidence. Chris suddenly, desperately wanted to be a kid like him. "Are you going to the science club?" San asked as they gathered their belongings. "Sure. It's practically all I thought about since I knew I was coming to West Valley." San smiled. "Once you're in, it'll still be all you think about. Do you have any lunch this period? Do you have lunch next period?" Chris nodded, hoping the lunch invitation. His conversation seemed to be going well. "Yo, so do I, and a lot of science club people. Why don't you sit with us and let everybody get a look at you and what they think?" "That would be great, thanks." Chris was happy to be included, even if it was seemingly on a trial basis. In the cafeteria, he sat with Sam and two other kids. A tall, lanky, red-haired boy who just introduced himself as Malcolm, and Brooke, a petite black girl with springy dark curls. "Chris, is in Mr. Little's third period class with me. San explained by why the introduction was settled down to eat their lunches. Chris was the only one of them eating the lunch the cafeteria provided. The others all had packed lunches with fresh fruit and raw vegetables and sandwiches on whole wheat bread. Chris made a mental note to tell his mom he wanted to start bringing his lunch. He would also have to be specific about what kind of foods to buy and pack. He couldn't let these kids see him eating a peanut butter and jelly on soggy white bread. Well, you must be reasonably intelligent then, Malcolm said, looking Chris over. Mr. Little only lets a handful of freshmen into his level 2 classes. Brooke smiled. Yeah, freshman doesn't have to take Mr. Harris's earth science class. I know, right? Chris said. Josh and Kyle were in Mrs. Harris' class. Oh, come on, guys. They do lots of really challenging experiences, Malcolm said. Like mixing vinegar and baking soda to make a volcano. His voice dripped with sarcasm. You're terrible, Brooke said as they all laughed. They also collect fall leaves and glue them on construction paper, Malcolm added, though it's hard of an assignment for most of them. Chris laughed and some more along with his and soon-to-be Hope friends. San could barely contain himself. And their final exam, he said, laughing so hard he could speak, is try to find the school cafeteria. Many fail, of course, Malcolm said, snickering. Chris can remember the last time he had laughed so hard. Of course, he felt a little bad because his friends laughed about the stupidity of Mrs. Harris' students, but he also laughing at Josh and Kyle, who had been his friends since he was old enough to walk and talk. But he knew he was going to reach his goals. He couldn't be sentimental. It was time to move up in the better class of friends. As soon as the dismissal bell rang, Chris hurried to Mr. Little's classroom. He couldn't wait to hear about the lock-in. Other students must have felt the same way because when he got there, the room was nearly full and a buzz of chatter. He found an empty seat near San, and I wonder what Mr. Little has cooked up this year, San said to Chris. Chris smiled. I don't know, but I hope it's cool. Oh, it will be, San answered, as though Chris's statement implied some type of doubt in Mrs. Little's abilities. Until you experience it, you can't possibly understand. It'll be life-changing. Chris nodded. He guessed he didn't understand, but he was looking forward to learning and life-changing experience exactly what he needed. Hey, San said, Malcolm and Brooke and I have a study group that we meet at Cool Beans Coffee on Wednesdays after school. You should come. Are you sure? Are you Malcolm and Brooke okay with it? Chris asked. He didn't want to appear pushy, like he was trying to force his way into the friend group. Yeah, they suggested it, San said. They like you. Chris smiled, and he could feel his life changing already. The room fell silent when Mr. Lowe's entered. He walked down the aisle of the classroom like a celebrity walking in the red carpet. Then he stopped and stood before them and said, Greetings, my sweet little guinea pigs. Are you ready to hear what kind of experience I have planned for you this weekend? The students clapped and hooted. Chris wasn't used to seeing such displays of enthusiasm in a classroom. It was refreshing change. First of all, Mr. Little said, starting at pace, scientifics requires sacrifice. Science requires sacrifice. If you're not willing to make a sacrifice, you have to put up a part of yourself for the sake of science. Then don't bother coming in on Friday because the lock-in isn't for you. Stay home and do whatever it is you do for your little electronic devices or go play a sport or whatever. Only come here if you are willing to make a sacrifice and experience the transformation. Transformation? Chris felt like a word that was looking to describe what he was seeking. He wanted to transform his life, to transform himself into something different, better, more worthy. In the past, some of our science club lock-ins have been group activities. This activity is one you will do alone. In fact, each of you will have a cubicle sequestering you and the other students from me as well. So each of you will be issued your own Freddy Fazbear Mad Science Kit to work with. In this kit, you'll find a solution called Fazgoo. You will put the required amount of Fazgoo into the provided petri dish. He smiled. Then comes for the sacrifice. With pliers, you'll pull one of your teeth. A gasp rose in the crowd. Chris heard himself gasp too. One of their teeth? Surely he hadn't heard Mr. Little correctly. Excuse me, Mr. Little, could you repeat that part? One student asked in a nervous style. Teeth, Mr. Little yelled. You will pull one of your teeth. It might hurt a little, but trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. Now, you are scientists, or are you a bunch of sniveling babies? Scientists, most students yelled back. Good, Mr. Little resumed pacing. So you will pull one of your teeth, I said, and you will place it in the Fazgoo. When you will have a scientist spend a great deal of time doing, you will wait. You will be provided a cot to nap on while the process unfolds. And what process is that? One student asked. Well, what fun would it be if I told you that? All I'll say is the process of discovery. Mr. Little's eyes were wild with excitement. You will know when you're done because the results will speak for themselves. Literally. Then you will dispose of your creation in a biohazard bag and leave. A changed person, and not just dentally, but mentally. He cackled at his own joke. But Many students joined in on the laughter. There's a rumor, Mr. Lowe said, that's not participating in the lock-in hurts your performance in my classes. That is not exactly true. If you do not participate in the lock-in, but you successfully complete all the course requirements, you will pass my class, possibly, with an above-average grade. However, over the years, I have found that students who do not participate in the lock-in demonstrate a level of commitment that allows them not just to pass, but to excel. And the fact that the lock-in is worth 500 points of extra credit doesn't hurt either. He grabbed a stack of papers off his desk. Now, for those of you who are up to the challenge, I will now distribute the required parental permission sheets that will allow you to participate in the lock-in. But please make sure you don't say anything to your parents about the required tooth extraction. I don't want you to be receiving any of any dental bills. Also, as a community of scientists, we must keep our secrets. Chris felt excited and also scared. He wouldn't let his fear stop him, though. You didn't transform yourself by playing it safe. You had to take a risk. Try new things. Then Mr. Little offered him a permission slip. He grabbed it. There was only one part of the lock-in that Chris dreaded. The more he thought about it, the more nervous he became at the prospect of pulling out one of his own teeth. Chris had always been squeamish about dental matters. He was a little and had loose baby tooth. He would procrastinate pulling it until the tooth hung by the smallest threads. Sometimes he was lucky the tooth would just come out of him even having to touch it. He lost one on an apple once, another on an ear of corn. Another time, when he had one tooth that he had been letting hang on for another number of weeks. His dad had asked to see it, then yanked it out without warning. Chris had been mad at him for days. Then there was a matter of dental visits. Even if it was just exam and cleaning, Chris was consumed with anxiety for weeks before. His mother told him he'd be loath the trips to the dentist as much as she was wanting to get him there, and put him up with the moaning and groaning before, during, and after. Chris lay awake all night, thinking. The lock-in was 2 nights away. If he could just figure out a way to participate in the experience without having to pull his own tooth. Chris, your friends are at the door, his mom called. Again? Chris thought, and showed a less serious Josh and Kyle there to show up and want to hang out of school tonight. Tell them I have homework, Chris yelled. Come tell them yourself, his mom yelled back. Chris rolled his eyes and got up to bed. He went to the door to see Josh and Kyle. Hey, he said, I can't hang out tonight. I've got homework. Can we just stop by for a sec, Josh said. Kyle's mom's going to drive us to the mall on Friday. We're going to eat at food court and see a new Revengers movie. We wonder if you wanted to come. It was kind of them to ask, but their pastime seemed so childish now. Thanks, guys. I'd love to, but I've got a science club to lock in that night. Oh, you're doing that? Kyle said, sounding incredulous. It seems kind of sad to spend most of your weekend in school. Well, I think it's exciting, Chris said. Kyle and Josh exchanged a look. Just don't get too deep into science club stuff, okay? Josh said. Some people in Mrs. Harris' class were talking about it yesterday. They said it's weird, like a cult or something. Chris couldn't help but be offended. Josh and Kyle might be cut for the science club themselves, but they at least show in a proper respect. Well, people in the science club talk about the people in Mrs. Harris' class too, Chris said. Yeah, Kyle said. They say we're dumb? Because they're snobs, Josh added. Kyle gave Chris a strange look. You're not turning into a snob, are you, Chris? No, of course not, Chris said. He hated that word, snob. It was the underachievers called high achievers, trying to make them feel better about themselves. Well, he refused to take the bait. Do you think Josh and me are dumb? Kyle asked. Chris cringed a little. It's Josh and I, he thought reflexively. And you're not dumb, you just lack maturity and ambition. But he figured it would be a bad idea to say either of those things out loud. Interesting. Here's a lesson of the day from your good pal Stonesy from the reading video. If your science teacher tells you to rip out one of your own teeth, don't. Really. No, seriously, don't. Do not rip out your own teeth. Don't even do it for a grade. Because that is stupid. You only have a set amount of teeth. You have a million different ways of getting extra credit. So, yeah. Just don't. I don't even know why I have to say that, but you know, there's going to be someone, and it's just going to be like, well, I heard it in this video, and so I have to make that clear. Please, do not rip out your own teeth for a grade. Anyways, today we read pages 151 to 165, and next time we are reading pages 166 to 180. Now, you might be wondering, why is this another 14 pages? And I'll be honest with you, the episode after this one is another 14 pages. The reason why is it was either going to be 28 or 14. And honestly, I think 28 and 28, it would take too long and would be too boring for a video, especially since it would have to be 14, then 28, then 14, which makes no sense to me. so I'd rather cut it into many videos so we can learn more about dogs. Speaking of, let's go to the Learning Corner of the day, doing it up Stonseys way, bop. Today we are learning about the Sussex Spaniel. It's a funny name. Laugh at the funny name. But understand that is the dog. Look at the picture of the baby dog. That is what you're laughing at, you monster. You're laughing at that? And you're making fun of a dog because of its name that it couldn't even give itself without knowing the history? You should know. Before you make fun of anything or have a real opinion on something, you should know the history. Don't ever take some opinion off of someone else. That's lazy. Don't ever do that. Because in reality, who's the real lazy one? The person who just believed someone, or the person who researched it and has information to back up their claim? Well, I don't think you need to be a genius to figure that one out. Anyways, the history of the Sussex Spaniel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is that the Spaniels of Sussex are mentioned in the sporting publication of 1820 as good working dogs. The name was adopted from Sussex, England, the home of the first important kennel, established in 1795. These small land spaniels, the breed soon to become popular among the estates around Sussex County. They were adapted to upland shooting dogs. Slow working, but they're good nose and apt to give tongue when they scent. This latter trait hurt the breed in the field trials in the early 1900s when quiet hunters were preferred. In addition, American hunters usually prefer the faster hunter. Although one of the first 10 AKC, American Kennel Company, recognized breeds, and among the earliest breeds that compete at dog shows. The Sussex had never been particularly popular at dog shows, or never been particularly popular or competitive show dog. Perhaps because of the reasons, the Sussex Spaniel has perilously closed the extinction throughout most of the 20th century. At times, the breed had so few individuals that inbreeding would be practiced to a greater extent than otherwise describable. In 1954, the cross was made in the Clubber Spaniel in an effort to expand the gene pool. The Sussex gene pool remains limited because the breed is still among the rarest of the American Kennel Company's AKC breeds. So now you know the kind of sad story of the Sussex Spaniel. Wow, its name this dog really doesn't have a lot going for it. It has a funny name and really was just made fun of by the American Kennel Company and probably the English Kennel Company, considering not even they would take their own breed of dog, considering this is one of the first dogs in the English Kennel Company. So yeah, it's kind of sad. But yeah, you want to own this thing. You feel bad for it, so you want to own it, which is really sad, because look at that dog. He's so sad. So yeah, what is the temperament of this dog, Stonesy? Well, the temperament of the Sussex Spaniel is that the Sussex Spaniel is more laid back than other Spaniels. This makes it well suited for city life, but it still appreciates the chance to take a wild hunt up birds. It may be noisier than most other Spaniels when hunting, which is made up of less popular with hunters. If left alone while other activities are ongoing, it may bark or howl. At home, it is calm, steady, and easygoing. Its somber expression is misleading because it's quite cheerful. Oh, so it just looks sad. It reminds me of my Basset Hound. Speaking of, I think we might be learning about our Basset Hound kind of soon. The page for the Basset Hound would be page... I should be able to find it pretty easily, actually. I'll find it after. Now, you want to know more about this sad-looking dog, even though he's very happy. Well, that means you want to know the upkeep. The upkeep of the Sussex Spaniel is the Sussex needs daily exercise. But its needs are be met with a good walk and a lead and a short romp in the yard. Given the chance, it will appreciate a longer foray into the field. It does best in the house that also has access to a yard. The coat needs brushing and combing 2 to 3 times a week. Wow, this dog needs a lot of brushing, but for that beautiful mane, I wouldn't put it behind them. Now, for any children here, cover your ears. For any teenagers or adults, please get out your notebooks if you are trying to own, or if you do own a Sussex Spaniel, because the health of the Sussex Spaniel, one of my worst parts of these videos. The major concerns of the Sussex Spaniel is the CHD, intervertebral disc disease, so leg if I'm not mistaken. Minor concerns are otitis externa, heart murmurs, and a large heart. Those are all really bad. Chest, yeah, but it's all chest really. It's occasionally seen with nothing. Suggested tests are really nothing. I would give this dog chest tests personally, and its lifespan is 11 to 13 years. Not as long as any other Spaniel, but you know, pretty good for a dog. Now, please uncover your ears because you need to know the form and function. I don't have kids. Why would I care? So, The form and function of a Sussex Spaniel is a long, low, rectangular body covulated with a muscular and rather massive physique. Allows the Sussex to penetrate dense cover when hunting. Its movement is deliberate and rolling because of the short legs and comparatively wide body. Its gait is emphasis power over need. The abundant body coat is flat or slightly wavy, giving protection from thorns. A distinctive feature is the long feather between the toes, which would be long enough to cover the toenails. The expression is somber and serious, even frowning, but the wagging tail bellies its true nature. The Sussex tends to bark when hunting, which helps the hunter locate it in thick cover. Now for the final thing. Tell me, what's the plan? Are you time for one more dance? Because we're at the final glance. Did anyone get that reference? Comment if you did, because I'd be surprised. So basically, let me give you this quick rundown, because I haven't given this rundown in a month. 5 is the best. 4 is better. 3 is your average, and 2 is worst. 1 is the worst. All in all, now let's get to this tier list, big or small. I don't care. Okay. The energy level, exercise requirements, and playfulness of the Sussex Spaniel is at a 3. So, average energy, it goes sleepies, it needs good exercise, but not much, in playfulness. The affection level is at a 4. This dog loves you. Their friendliness towards dogs and friendliness towards strangers is at a 3. This dog is okay with dogs. The friendliness towards other pets is at a 4. They love hamsters. Ease of training is at a 2, which for Spaniel species seems to be relevant. The watchdog ability is at a 3. At a 4. So they're pretty good at watching out and keeping an eye on things. But their protection ability, grooming requirements, cold tolerance, and heat tolerance are at a 3. So they're alright at protecting. They do need a good amount of grooming, like said, 2 to 3 times a week. And good cold tolerance, good heat tolerance, good time anywhere. The weight. The average weight for both female and male Sussex Spaniels is 35 to 45 pounds for a healthy weight. And the height is 13 to 15 inches. And I pray not feet, because that would be a big dog. Next time we will be reading about... Well, you'll have to find out, won't you? But yes. Now, to the thing I promised you guys. For the Basset Hound. The Basset Hound is found at page 60. We are on page 44. Which, divided by 2... means we're at page 22, and this is at page 30, so we will be reading this, about this guy, in about 6 episodes. Let's see. I'm already on my next episode. Next episode after that, so 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip this page. 6, 7, 8. We'll be there in 8 episodes, which will be the next book. Wow, ain't that crazy? So, yeah. Hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading video.